Hey everyone, Mr. Sujano here, your source for gaming, tech, emulation, and open source news. Let's get started. Alright, we'll kick things off talking about PlayStation Vita emulation on Android with Vita3k, and Vita3k's got a brand new release. So at the time of filming, Vita3k Android release 12 is the latest update, and I would argue this is a real good one. So on top of a whole bunch of bug fixes, there's an awesome brand new feature here. SD card support. It allows any folder to be specified as the OS game data folder. Additionally, Vita3k on Android now allows the overlay to be used at the same time as the touchscreen. And they've added in some controller opacity. The other big thing about this release is that they've rebased it on the PC version, so a lot of the great improvements we've been seeing on PC now apply to the Android version, including adding support for module unloading and reloading, which allows FFX to be playable. Vita3k on Android is 100% free, and if you're curious about it, I'll drop a link to the GitHub in the description below. Feel free to check it out. Next up, we're talking about N64 emulation with RMG, which stands for Subscribe to Mr. Sujano, or Rosalies Mupen GUI, depending on how you want to interpret that. And RMG just got a brand new update. So at the time of filming, version 0.6.1 is the latest update. We've got some fixes and some updates here. They've updated Mupen 64 Plus, Glide N64, the game controller database, and even more. Rosalies Mupen GUI is 100% free. It's open source, it's available for PC, and it's a very straightforward, simple, easy to use, and clean interface to emulate N64 games. Next up, we're quickly talking about Gamers Nexus, and Gamers Nexus seems to have it out for ASUS, and not necessarily in a bad way. So arguably here, ASUS has been facing a whole lot of criticism about their customer service, and Gamers Nexus has kind of brought that to a focal point. I'll drop a link to their YouTube community posts in the description below, and I do recommend checking them out. It's a very interesting read. For example, they say that now that ASUS's story is public and they can't cover anything up, especially following their now 2 apologies after our undercover warranty pieces, we will be visiting the company at Computex. And if we take a look to this paragraph, we have a binder filled with customer service failures on behalf of our viewers that we want addressed. Apparently, ASUS was providing Gamers Nexus access to their director of marketing. And Gamers Nexus says, we inform them that we want to speak with someone who has power over customer service, not someone whose job is marketing. They then go on to say they met with the marketing team and pressed them repeatedly during the meeting to get a director of customer service. So I'm very curious to see how this one all unfolds. I mean, Gamers Nexus is relentless. So let me know your thoughts about this one in the comments below. Have you had issues with ASUS or their customer service? What are your thoughts about ASUS, and has the information presented by Gamers Nexus changed your opinion about ASUS? And speaking about PR nightmares, next up we're talking about Adobe, and apparently Adobe has made some changes to its terms of use that are not sitting well with users. For example, this tweet here, I can't use Photoshop unless I'm okay with you having full access to anything I create with it, including NDA work. And check out this one, here it is. If you are a professional, if you are under NDA with your clients, if you are a creative, a lawyer, a doctor, or anyone who works with proprietary files, it is time to cancel Adobe, delete all of the apps and programs. Adobe cannot be trusted. They've even highlighted the controversial statement of the updated terms of use, clarified that we may access your content through both automated and manual methods, such as for content review. So let me know your thoughts about this one in the comments below. I mean, to me, this seems like it's just par for the course in today's modern society, where privacy doesn't really seem to exist anymore and where companies can profit off anything. And for the record, this channel is 100% Adobe free, but that doesn't really matter. But moving on, and this one's a quick one. We're talking about BioWare, and if you're a fan of Dragon Age, you may want to set your calendars for June 11th. On June 11th, they're having their first official gameplay reveal for Dragon Age The Veilguard. And speaking about gameplay trailers, if you're a fan of indie games, Guerilla Collective 2024 aired yesterday. I'll drop a link to it in the description below. It's like a 2-hour presentation, almost a 3-hour presentation. And there were a whole ton of indie games unveiled and gameplay shown. Included in that lineup was the new Five Nights at Freddy's, this game here called Big Boy Boxing, which does have a demo on Steam. and the new Yooka-Replay-y, the remastered version of Yooka-Laylee. So right here on Steam, they say it's the enhanced definitive version of the beloved indie darling, with all new challenges, secrets, mechanics, and accessibility options. Now, if for some reason you don't want to watch the huge showcase, you can just head on over to Video Games Chronicle, and they've got all 70 games listed, so feel free to check them out, and I'll drop a link to this page in the description below. Moving on, and we're quickly talking about GOG, and if you use GOG, you may want to pay attention to this recent announcement, and you may not be happy with it. So the recent post from GOG says, review your cloud saves to avoid loss of files. We're reaching out to inform you that your cloud saves files that exceed the default allocation limit, 200 megabytes per game, will be deleted after August 31st, 2024. As to why they're limiting storage, they say as the size and number of games increase, so does the demand for cloud storage. These limits ensure that all players have access to sufficient and manageable space for their game progress. So if you do use GOG, you may really want to take a look at this stuff. I mean, there is a way to download these save files so you don't lose them. Next up, if you use Steam and you like driving or racing games, you may want to check out the latest Test Drive Unlimited Solar Crown game. It releases on September 12th, and Nacon has just released a demo for this game. I'll drop a link to it in the description below, and I guess feel free to check it out and let me know your thoughts. Next up, this one's just a quick heads up. If you use Epic Games, or if you've just got it for the free games, you may want to pay attention to this one. Marvel's Midnight Suns is now 100% free for a limited time. This game is not cheap at normal price, and if you've played it before, let me know your thoughts about it in the comments below. Next up is another quick heads up. If you're a fan of God of War Ragnarok, or if you're curious about how it looks on PC versus PS5, I'll drop a link to this video in the description below. I've watched it, and in my opinion, I would say the PC version looks a lot nicer. Not surprising. Now, to be clear, I am not knocking the PS5 version. It also looks good. It's just that PC version gives it the little extra nice push. Next up is another real quick one, but arguably not a very good one for anime fans. Apparently, Neon Genesis Evangelion anime studio Gainax has filed for bankruptcy after almost 40 years. The entire announcement is up on their website in Japanese. I'll drop a link to it in the description below, and if you don't speak or read Japanese, you may have to use Google Translate with it. Next up is another quick heads up. If you've got a TP-Link gaming router, you may want to pay attention to this news article. I'll drop a link to it in the description below. So the TP-Link Archer C5400X does have a pretty big security vulnerability where hackers can execute remote code on it. Now, they do have a firmware fix for this one already, and if you've got one of these routers, you may want to make sure the firmware is up to date. And speaking about security vulnerabilities, next up we're talking about Microsoft Recall, part of the whole CoPilot Plus thing. This one has been talked about a whole bunch, but not necessarily this new feature that popped up on GitHub. So over on GitHub, it's called Total Recall. This very simple tool extracts and displays data from the recall feature in Windows 11, providing an easy way to access information about your PC's activity snapshots. I'll drop a link to the GitHub in the description below, and feel free to check it out. The alarming part is a tool like this already exists, and hackers could potentially use that to take information from your PC if it's got recall on it. Let me know your thoughts about recall in the comments below. Do you care about it? Are you worried about it? Is it making you switch from Windows to something amazing like Linux? Or is it just something you're going to deal with? And on a quick side note, I'll drop a link to this YouTube video in the description below titled Hacking Windows Recall to see everything. It's a very interesting watch. And speaking about interesting watches, next up here is something I wouldn't try myself, but at the same time, it's a pretty cool watch. The video is called I Built a Modern Game Boy by Zach Builds. I'll drop a link to it in the description below. He basically builds a brand new Game Boy out of old parts. Now for this build, he does use a Game Boy Advance SP, and he says something I don't necessarily agree with, but everyone's entitled to their own opinion. He says, truth be told, I was never a huge fan of the clamshell design of the SP. Really? Well, I'm not going to lie, his end product looks absolutely amazing. At the same time, I respectfully disagree. I think the Game Boy Advance SP is amazing. Let me know your thoughts about that one in the comments below. And last up here, we'll end on a positive note, especially if you're on PlayStation. If you've got a PlayStation, you might be excited to know that Microsoft might be unveiling Halo for PlayStation at its next game showcase. So reportedly, Microsoft is in early stages of working on a remaster of Halo Combat Evolved, and is considering launching it on PS5. Wouldn't that be something? Let me know your thoughts about that one in the comments below, and let me know your thoughts about the best Halo game in the comments below. But anyways, that is all I've got for you in this one. Straight to the point, all stuff and one fluff. We talked about a bunch today. Let me know your thoughts about anything we talked about in the comments below. If you like this video, leave a like. If you didn't like this video, leave a like. Hit that subscribe button, check out my other videos. Don't tempt fate, save your state.